Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, what shenanigans are we up to? Keep watching to find out. Well, I wouldn't really call it shenanigans. I mean, we've done this subject before. What I'm basically going to be doing today is introducing you to the potential of Windows 10 Pro. Not the home version, but the Pro version. Because, with the Windows 11 coming out and all the ballywig about it, I think it's convinced more of you to stay on Windows 10 than to move to Windows 11. And there are some really cool things you can do with Windows 10 Pro. And one of them is turn a machine into a server, for lack of a better word. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get the odd or occasional person out of Joe, there's no GUI on a server. Yeah, there is. But, hey, the server is whatever you want it to be, right? So if you take a look at the bench behind me, you'll see there's a very tall, almost building-like tower case behind me. That is an old case, back from the mid-90s when I first, back from the mid-90s, we'll leave it at that. Anyway, it's an Antec case. It's a great case, and I'm going to tell you as we go through the build process on this machine, what parts I used and why. All right, so here we are at the bench, and as you can see, I have this beast of a case here in front of me, and there's a story behind this. So let me turn this case around. It is quite heavy. It is quite the behemoth. As you can see, it's quite a lovely case though. So the reason behind this case is this thing here. This is a 4x3 5¼ inch drive bay adapter. Well, that's a cotton picking mouthful. What this means is I can get 4 3.5 inch drives into a spot normally only 3 would fit into, through a little bit of magic of engineering. So this thing has a back plate on it, then it has some power connectors on the rear, and then it has these lovely little indicator lights which no longer work. However, the drive bay does work, and the power indicator does work on the drive bay. So rather than spending a bunch of money and buying a new drive bay, which eventually I will do, but not right now because prices are too dang high, part of this video is making stuff out of stuff you have around the house. And I'm very proud of the fact that I kept this Antec case. Not only did I keep this one, I kept a beige one as well, and it's out in the shed. So I remember I have this photographic memory thing, so when I put something in a place, I take a snapshot of my brain, and then I can think about that item, and I see the image and where I placed it in my home most of the time. It doesn't work all the time. But I remembered I thought I had one of these out in the shed, and sure enough I did. Not only did I have this one, but I do have a beige one, so that might make for another project. Not only did I have the case, I also had the floppy drive. For some reason I was too cheap to buy a black 3.5 inch floppy drive back in the day, but that's what it is. And then inside there I have a 2.5 inch SSD drive, a Crucial. I think it's a 200, or it's either 120 or 200 gig hard drive. So we're going to be putting that in there. But I wanted to show you these little drive bay things. It comes with 2 of these. So this will hold 3.5 inch, either floppy drive, or you could have multiple floppy drives because you have another slot here. So you could have 2 floppy drives and then a hard drive, or 3 hard drives, however you wanted to do it. But the beauty of this is this little drive bay on the inside, let me show you, has this interesting little feature. You see these 2 little chingaderos here? So I can put it in here. Oh, it helps if I put it in the right direction. I'm trying to stay out of the line of sight here. Now, I also have some cables I gotta deal with, so let me move that around them. Yeah, why are you misbehaving here? You go down there. Ooh, that was a dust bunny and a half. Okay, what is it fighting? There we go. So you just basically slide it in there like this, right? And then you flip that latch and it locks it in place. So now, there's the floppy drive, and then we have the SSD below it. So it has power, it has reset on the front, power LED, hard drive indicators, and then a number 1 and a number 2. So if you had a LAN indicator LED on your network card or something like that, or on the motherboard, you could hook that up to that, or you could, I don't know, temperature warning, whatever you want to use those other 2 LEDs for. And then USB 2 and FireWire, or that may be USB 1, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, this motherboard does have USB 3 on here. Now, so the reason I went with this case is I had a choice between that case and that horrible thing. Yeah, not the most lovely case, but it had enough drive bays. The problem was, and you probably can't see this, it's not well lit enough, but inside each one of these 5 1/4 slots is a little lip that would have to have been bent down, each one of them, and some of them are hard to get to, you know, with a pair of needle nose pliers, or take a little piece of metal that's flat and got a groove in it and bend it like that. It would have been a pain in the ass. So that's why I took a trip out to the shed and retrieved this Antec case. Now, another thing with this Antec case is these side rails are kind of proprietary to Antec. I've never seen anybody else make them. I'm going to pull this out. I got only 2 of them in there. I should have 4. But they're basically these little plastic rails that go on the side that's plastic to here, and then they have this metal clip, so once you push it in, the clip goes pop and it holds it all in there. But 2 of these in this unit will be just fine. It's not going to hurt a thing as we put that back together. Now, I've got 4 3.5-inch bays available, and I've gone ahead and I've gotten my drives together as I want them. So I've got a bunch of leftover drives that I got from a client. The last day in the life of was I got these drives from that client. And I'm just going to basically start at the top and just, they're a hodgepodge. They're all Seagate drives, but some are Seagate Iron Wolf, some are Seagate desktop drives. I don't care. I don't care. The software we're using is going to, and good backups will protect us from ourselves. There's another Seagate Iron Wolf NAS drive. And then another Seagate NAS hard drive, an older model. So all these drives will be just fine in here. They're all spinning rust. They don't have to be that fast. So, you know, I don't care if they're different speeds or whatnot. But normally, to make a good RAID array or drive array, you'd want all the drives to be the same speed, the same style, the same model number, the same firmware. But in the case of the software we're going to be using on here, it's going to be a non-issue. So, let me tell you about this unit. This is my old handy dandy Z77 DS3H motherboard from Gigabyte. I love this board. It's so versatile. I started out with an i5 CPU in here. Now this is an i7 I picked up off of eBay last year. The reason I love this board is it's got 2 PCI Express slots, a 16 and an 8. I believe we're a 16 and a 4. Then it has some other PCI slots in it. Right now I've got, like I said, the i7 3770 in there. So I get video off of that as well. And that's another reason I wanted to go with Intel. So I could use an onboard video. And then I've got 4 sticks of 4 gig HyperX RAM, Kingston RAM. I love Kingston RAM. I hardly ever go wrong with Kingston RAM. An LSP 750 ATX power supply. This thing's not even bronze rated. This was made before they made the ratings, so I don't even know how efficient it is, nor do I care at this point. And then the back of the drive, which actually uses Molex connectors and SATA connectors, and then I've plugged them onto the motherboard. The other deal with this motherboard is it only has 2 SATA 3 ports. So I put my SSD on there, and then I just use SATA 2 speeds for my spinning rest hard drive. It really doesn't matter. They're never going to saturate that, if you know what I mean. The only thing I don't have in here right now is the additional video card I'm going to use, because I have a GTX 950 that I did the fan mod on because I could never find fans to fit it. Well, those fans have now gone bad and they're starting to be really noisy. But I did get a NVIDIA Quadro P400 video card because one of the goals is going to be to do transcode H.265 video, and that P400 or the GTX 950 will support it, either one. But I prefer to have the Quadro card in here. But that means I've got to go get it, take it out of the Lenovo that is on loan to me, because it's in there right now, and put it in here. So that's what we're going to do. And then the next step, I'm going to install Windows 10 on there, and then I'm going to install my utilities that I normally install. Now, the thing about this build is I'm not using hardly any, I don't think I'm using any new parts in this machine. All these parts have been in some other combination. The i7 processor I ordered off of eBay a while back, that motherboard I've got 2 or 3 of those motherboards in stock, and the clients I have them as well. It's a great board. It's a Z77 DS3H made by Gigabyte. It's got 2 PCI Express slots on it, and the board's old, you know. It also has 4 RAM slots for DDR3 RAM, which I have 16 gig of the Kingston HyperX RAM in there. The drive bay is an old one I had that all the lights went out on, so I'm repurposing that because it is working. Let's see, the power supply is actually one I inherited from my stepfather when he passed away a few years ago, God rest his soul. And the floppy drive came with the Antec case. So, yeah, it's a hodgepodge, and that's a 3rd generation i7 CPU. And as you're about to see, you're going to see how powerful that CPU still is today. Not for you gaming folks, but for folks like us that are just running a server or want to do some transcoding of video, or we want to store some data redundantly. This is a great little machine to do that with, because I know a lot of you have just parts like this laying around, and you know, maybe you don't realize the potential of putting Windows 10 on there, and with the additional software I'm about to show you now. All right, so we're over on our Windows 11 workstation, which, by the way, is running virtually. So let's log into Winraid, and we're going to use the Remote Desktop Connection Manager. It makes things pretty convenient, and we're not going to be doing anything graphics intensive that requires the full screen. Hopefully this won't annoy me too terrible much. All right, so as you can see, I've got Windows 10 installed. I'm currently running an Intel i7 3770 16 gig RAM. We're running Windows 10 Pro 21HT H2, sorry, 19044.1645. So I need to do some updates on that. I will here in a minute, but I just wanted to show you I went out and used Ninite and got some of the utilities I use: Notepad, Putty, Winderstat, FileZilla, Handbrake, that kind of thing. I've got TDAR installed on it. We'll have a separate video on that, using that. And I have CPU ID and CPU ID hardware monitor, so we can get an idea of the temperatures, etc. So we're all squared away and ready to go here. However, what I want to do is I want to create a new drive vendor drive array and take you through that. So here we are in disk management after the reboot, and you can see that the drives are now appearing there. They're 4 2 terabyte drives. Now, you can go ahead and use these the way they are, but I'm not going to. I'm going to pretend we're starting from scratch, and that is I want to go ahead and format every volume. I'm just going to name them DB1 through 4. You can call them whatever you want. It doesn't matter. make sure you perform NTFS, use the default allocation unit size, and perform a quick format. Click on OK, and it'll just warn you that all the data will be lost. Now, if you were doing this from scratch, for example, let me delete the volume. Say you didn't have a volume on here at all, like currently I don't. If you right-click on there and choose New Simple Volume, the wizard will pop up. You just go through next, next, and next. And it's very important on this part is that you do not assign a drive letter. You don't want to assign a drive letter. Let DriveBender figure out where your drives are. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to put a special format or something on there. These drives, if something were to happen to one of these drives in a DriveBender array, you can take the drive out and it can be read on any machine that has a SATA interface. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one. And then I'll go ahead and just format the rest of these really quickly, keeping the same settings. And there we go. Hopefully it should be done. All right, so let's go into DriveBender. What I'm going to do is just create a simple pool of drives, those 4 drives. And now it's telling me it detected 1 more pools, and that can be restored. Now I don't want to restore that pool. Okay. Would you like to start the pool drive setup wizard? Sure. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to create a new DriveBender pool drive, and I want to click, can I select all of these drives? DB1, DB2, nope, only one at a time, so we'll do DB1 first. Now you also have the option to format the drive. That will take some time, so just be aware of that. We've already formatted them, so I'm just going to click next. And it's very important to select the following options, the defaults. Enable drive renaming and manage drive letters. That way you allow DriveBender to keep track of where the drives are by a unique drive volume name. Click on next. And I always put mine out at drive letter P for pool drive. And I'll just call it pool 1. And click on create. And yes, I want to create that drive. And it'll go out and it'll create a mount point. And now it'll ask you if you want to add another drive. So, oh sure. I'm going to cancel on this. And then I'm going to use this button here. I'm going to add this drive to the pool instead of using the wizard. So, same settings before, except I'm not going to format. I'm going to add. And it's that easy to add a drive to the pool. So let's get all 4 of them added to the pool. And then we may or may not get a message that the pool momentarily goes offline. I'm going to go ahead and add. Let's see. It says there are. I'm going to step back and I'm going to format DB4 again because it says there are files on that drive. So now it may take. See, there's our mount point went offline. That is normal. I see that happen. It will come back online. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and close that. So on DB4, I want to right-click and I want to format that drive. Quick format, tell it OK and OK. Make sure it formats, OK. Then let's come out to DriveBender. All right, and now we don't have that option to restore the data. So yes, I must not have cleaned the data or formatted that drive. All right, so now under DriveBender, we have a pooled drive, and it should be about 7.28 terabytes in size. Now, one of the options I like to change up here on the gear icon is safety, and I just enable CRC file validation, and it explains to you how that works. The rest of this, I leave it alone. All the time I've used DriveBender, I've never changed any of these other settings, and it works great. But feel free to investigate these options. I will tell you I have had trouble before changing the interface style. I leave it at Metro Blue now. There are other options. But every time I seem to use one of those, it screws up the interface, the drive bender interface. So I just leave them alone now. When you're done, click on the done button, and you should have a new drive that is ready for data. Let's see if we can find it. Called the P drive, and there it is. All right, so let's go ahead and create some folders in here because I'm going to copy some files over. So I'm going to call it media, and we'll just leave it at that. Now, the one program I don't see on here is Total Commander. All these tools. You use whatever file management program you like. I prefer Total Commander. It's just so darn flexible. And the first time I run it, I have to change some settings. Let's see, show hidden files is one of them, and then on the copy delete, I always tell it copy date time of directories. And click on apply. And OK here. So what I want to do is on the pool under media, I want to go to my media pool here on my Prometheus server. And I want to copy the music and the photos folder, drag them and drop them over to my pooled drive. And that tells you about how much data I have to copy. So my transfer speeds are up here. They're not going to be very fast because these are small files, so keep that in mind. It's saying it's going to take about 31 minutes to copy the data. We'll come back when that's done. All right, so here we are. We're done copying. So let's go to the P drive and see if our data is there. And yep, looks like our music is there. Even our colored folders survived. I'll show you that in a later video. But just suffice it to say, for now, it survived. So it looks like the data is all there. And excuse the fact that when I started this video, the microphone was too far away from me. So let's bring up Drive Bender and let's talk about RAID, redundant array of inexpensive or independent drives. Okay. There's RAID 0 where you just put the data across all the drives, like kind of like what we're doing with the drive pool. Then there's RAID 1 when you take two identical disks and you put them in a RAID pair, and whatever's on one drive gets written to both drives, etc. So you have a backup copy of your data, which is great unless both drives fail at the same time, which I've never had happen in a 30-year career, so take that for what it's worth. However, you lose the capacity of an entire drive when you do RAID 1. Now you can do RAID 1 through software. It's built into Windows Server 2019 and 2012 and 2016, and I believe Windows 10 will do it. Don't quote me on that. Or you could have a controller, a hardware controller on your machine that'll do RAID 1. Most motherboards will do RAID 1 right out of the box. Drive Bender is different. Drive Bender just puts all of your drives together in a pool. And then if you wanted to mirror data between two drives, you don't have to sacrifice the entire drive to have folder redundancy. So let me show you how that works. So if you come here and look at our array, so far we have 7.25 terabytes free. There's really nothing on there. There's a little bit of music and let's see, pictures and videos and, a little bit of everything on there. But if we come up here to duplication, we can go over to that drive and we can expand it and go to media. Let's say, for example, these photos are precious to me, right? Now, if they're that precious to you, you should also make sure they're backed up regularly. Any files that are critical to you. This does not replace a backup. This is just a little bit more assurance that if one drive fails, you're not going to lose all the data that might be on that drive because it's split across two drives. So what you can do is you can either enable duplication on the selected folder or on the selected folder and all child folders. So you can go up to any level and turn this on. So I definitely want my photos backed up or in a different folder, duplicated. And I definitely want my music. So I have a choice. I can either turn on duplication for each folder, or I could come up to the root and turn it on for everything and all the children under it. Now, I may want to turn it on for videos as I bring them over as well, but I may not want all of my videos duplicated, just some that are hard to replace, right? So what I'm going to elect to do is put it on each folder here. So I'm going to come to the music folder. I'm going to turn on that folder and then child folders. And then it begins a process in the background where it starts duplicating the files. I'm going to do the same thing for photos. Tell it yes. Okay, and now it's doing its thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on close, and then we can, let's see, turn on file and folder access, and you're going to see now that data is being moved around on drives, being split across the drives, and making sure there's one copy of each file on an independent drive or separate drive. In the event of a single drive failure, we would not lose all the data in that folder, if that makes sense. So that's how easy it is to turn that on in Drive Bender. All right, so by this time now we have the system assembled. I've got Windows 10 Pro on there, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with this unit moving forward. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a server similar to Winraid, but using Windows instead. Because a lot of you have a Windows 10 license laying around, or you have an old Windows 7 license, and you can upgrade that to Windows 10 for not a zip. And there are lots of places out there where you can get a very low-cost Windows 10 key. I'm talking as low as $30. And they are legit. You just got to find the place, because I'm not going to pick any one of those places in particular, but you can find them out there. And you can even call Microsoft with that key, and they will tell you it's legit. So don't take my word for it. Anyway, I digress. So we want to get this server as close to Winraid as we can. So we're going to need to be able to do virtual machines. We're going to need to be able to do Docker images. We're going to need to be able to do to run apps. We're going to need to be able to monitor the system temperatures and the amount of RAM in use, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to need to have pooled drives and be able to have some redundancy on those drives. We're going to, there are just so many things this machine potentially could do for us. So in continuing episodes on this saga, we're going to talk about how I configure all those services and get them running, including Docker. Maybe we'll even use Portainer to manage our Docker images. We'll see. Running Linux under Windows. There's a whole subsystem under Windows for Linux. And we'll be covering all that in upcoming episodes of this series of videos. So you got that to look forward to. Now, when we get to those parts, I'm going to make it as detailed as I can. So, for example, when we go to install and configure Hyper-V, I'm going to take my time and make one episode on this Winraid server about installing and configuring Hyper-V. And that'll include creating a virtual machine and maybe passing through a video card to it. I don't know. We'll see what it brings. But that's how I'm going to break these up episodically so that you can see each part of this in detail. And then we'll do an ending video when we get the machine all built. And then the other beautiful thing about this is this machine, once built, will not be changed. It will be staying as our Winraid server because I have some tasks that I want to assign to this server. So it's not going anywhere. Now, I know a lot of you have asked, Unky Joe, have you given up on Winraid? No. I'm building a toolkit here, folks, in a lab environment. So I don't forego one to take the other. Well, so that's not true. Sometimes I do. But no, Winraid is right there. Winraid is right there next to my Mac Pro. And in between that little white cube, the board cube, and my Mac Pro. So no, I do have Winraid. It is still running. I am still using it. It has a K620 video card in there, so I can use that to pass through to virtual machines, and I've done some videos on Winraid. So no, Winraid's not going anywhere. We're just going to add Winraid to our bevy of servers, sit down there on the floor to the list, and then we'll have them to spin up whenever I need to do a project or I have a specific task that needs to be done. And then don't forget, we have all the Dell servers on the rack in there. And that's where we're doing our other lab videos, like on Windows Server Labs and Proxmox servers, and XCP-NG and Hyper-V. So, yeah, that's the benefit of having all this equipment. And all this equipment is old. I didn't pay thousands of dollars for any of this equipment. I paid $100 here, $200 there to build my home lab, and I've had the last 6 years to do it. So keep that in mind when you see all these nifty toys around here. These are all things that I've bought over the years in order to build up this lab. So this will just be one more machine in the lab. But I think and I hope you'll find those videos entertaining and informative as you have with today's video. See what I just did there? Give us a thumbs up down below if you liked the video. Comment. Leave your comments down in the comments section. I love to read your comments. I don't answer all of them. I let others help with issues too. Keep in mind, we're not really a tech support channel so much as we are just presenting you with the information, letting you go with it. So you're going to have to do a little bit of research on your own. I help out where I can, or other people will jump in. So leave your comments down in the comments section. Donate if you're so inclined, except PayPal, Patreon, the YouTube join function. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and click that notification bell to be notified of new videos. And it helps with the YouTube algorithms. So thanks again for coming to see us, and don't forget, we'll see all of you on the other side.